Star Citizen has had a big ship development and feature update Q&A with vehicle director John Crew. This video is a summary and highlight of all that juicy information, ranging from where ships are in the pipeline to where modularity and internal customization are in development, as well as loads of other little features for ships that are coming in the future. So let's start with some ship updates. Hull C, where's that? It's pretty close to being complete. They took a lot of time taking it up to metric standards. There are a couple of artists finishing it off, but they didn't give any additional information beyond that. I still think it might be available at the end of the year. Ranger, when? It's blocked by them not having tech for wheeled bikes ready. They know what work needs to be done for that, though, but it's not a priority at the moment. There's other things that they're focusing on, so we don't have a date on the Ranger. 600i rework, where are they with that? The concepts for both versions of the 600i and the reconcepts are done and looking great. They may show some of this off at the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, it seems. We do know that the rear sections of the 600i are where most of the magic happens when it comes to the sort of variants there, and there's big changes to that ship. Polaris. This needs multi-crew gameplay updates before they can really get going with it, before they want to get it out. It has received a full reconcept pass. Again, we might see this in more detail in an upcoming event. It has yet to go beyond reconcepting work, though, so bear that in mind. The Apollo! The team assigned to do the Apollo and start work on the production of it are finishing off the Corsair currently, and then once they're done with that, they may go to work on the Apollo or another ship based on priorities at the time. What about the Perseus or Nautilus? There are no new updates on those ships. They're still in the same place we saw them last time in concept. Retaliator rework, question mark. They updated the interior and corridors of the Retaliator and sort of general metrics brought those up to standard. The docking collar has been moved to the side, which has caused a lot of issues. So they've paused development on it. Its interior is around 90% complete, but they need to do some exterior changes and work to the ship to sort of finish it off. It's not any bigger, though, the ship. They haven't had to sort of make it larger. They have obviously just moved where the docking collar is. Any updates on the Corsair or Banu Merchantman? There will be updates coming to these ships later this year, so we'll see that later. Some other ship bits. The Argo SRV is making good progress. The Crucible will get a full reconcept rework, though is still going to look incredibly similar to what we previously had. When it comes to the roadmap, if they are working on any known ships, it will be on the progress tracker. If they're not, then they're not working on it, or it's an entirely new unannounced ship or vehicle that we have yet to see. What's happening with the Caterpillar and its cargo doors and lifts for them? The cargo doors are supposed to operate as lifts, but don't currently. Doors and lifts are surprisingly problematic for devs in video games, and Star Citizen is certainly no different. So simpler two-state doors, open and close, can't be used for the Caterpillar, really, and at least not for the final form, as they want it to have 3 states: closed, open to horizontal, and then lifting onto the ground, going down to the ground. Elevators are used on a lot of ships for moving between floors or sometimes to enter and exit. There are bugs and issues with elevators in Star Citizen currently. They sort of can get left behind when you're in quantum travel. They can stop working. They are working on allowing lifts to both allow for travel into a ship and then allow you to go onto different floors with the same elevator. At the moment, apparently they can't do that, which I never noticed. Please correct me if there are any elevators on ships that allow you to get to the ground and multiple floors on a ship from the same elevator. But for the Caterpillar, basically they want multi-state doors with complex linked animations. That's what they would need to do to sort of finish that off. They could make it so that the doors open all the way to the ground, or be closed and with no sort of step in between, which they actually might try. They might go, actually, let's just give it the functionality, let's allow these doors to open, and then they just go all the way to the ground so that people can then load things on them. but they really want to have the ability to have those multi-states for those doors. There are issues with doors opening to the ground and the flatness of the ground as well that they need to think about. Doors and elevators are more complex than people realise, but they're working on it, is the sort of gist of that answer. Will there be a landing assistance UI? Yes. Obviously, we've had one in the past, and they want to bring that back, although it will be a bit different. And they want to have a way of being able to see the relative distances of the floor and obstacles near you from inside the ship on a UI that will then help you land. I think they said they might want like a low-res version a while ago of like a ship and the ground, so you can sort of work out what's going on. Has there been any progress on drones? There are various scenarios in Squadron 42 which make use of drones, so they're scheduling some time in the near future to make a lightweight ship IFCS that is then remote controlled, which will be the foundation of drones in the persistent universe. What's going on with Modularity? The vehicle team that was going to be working on it were rebranded and reformed as the Arena Commander feature team, so that feature's not in their wheelhouse anymore. The resource network and power relays that are being developed currently are going to be finished off once they're done. Then that allows them to start work on Modularity. So it's still coming. It hasn't been canned or anything. It's just waiting on some scheduling time and some other prerequisites to be completed. What is needed tech-wise before we can have larger capital ships in players' hands? Optimization work is needed, as the resource cost for large capital ships is high. The Javelin and Idris, for example, they are being adjusted for Squadron 42's needs currently. They are waiting on Squadron teams to be done with them before putting them into the persistent universe for players to use, as they don't want there to be any major disparities and discrepancies between the Squadron ones and the persistent universe ones. They don't want to have to keep on reworking them and doing work twice. They also want the multi-crew aspects of the larger ships to be more developed before putting in a larger ship. The resource network, engineering, and a separation of more of the operator modes, as well as more advanced landing and docking for fighters to land on ships, and all of that sort of stuff needs to be in before massive ships are added. Some large ships could be coming to the game for AI and NPCs. That doesn't require the sort of same level of work or finish as giving that into players' hands, and that's one of the reasons we have the Idris and Javelin to fight in-game at the moment. What is the plan to get older ships complete, as some of them are over 7 years old and not out to players? It comes down to priorities and schedules. Ship teams often work with a 18 to 24 month schedule or rough plan ahead. And now they like to try and build ships from grey box all the way to completion all in one go without long breaks. And previously that's not been the case. So they also like a lot of the gameplay for a ship to be completed before they get a ship out as well. So this is very different to how they did it over 3 years ago. Things like the Endeavour, they need a load of gameplay and work, and it's likely to be done in the far future. This is also true of things like the Orion as well, because they need a whole new scale of mining to be developed, which is effectively a whole new gameplay mechanic. Vehicles on the Atlas platform don't share paints, will they in the future? Currently, due to technical limitations, they've had to sort of separate them. In the future, if possible, they will want to do that, yes, but that they can't confirm because they don't 100% know. Will there be a second entry for the Mercury Star Runner? They want one, but they don't know when. What are the plans for vehicle flares and internal furniture and just general little customizations on ships? They want a lot of customization in players' hands. They can't fully support it yet. They will try to do some more work on it for the end of the year if possible. Persistent Entity Streaming, or PES, will allow them to technically bring sort of anything aboard a ship and then like leave it there. So that and they are adding things like bobbleheads and lots of other consumables and furniture and that sort of stuff that you could potentially have on your ship. The resource network will allow for a lot more interactivity on ships and their internals too. There are a lot of things like the coffee maker and customization for the 300 series of ships, which is sort of in-game, that will be cannibalized into final version of customization too. The coffee maker, for example, will probably look the same, but get a load of functionality. What happened to custom ship names? They rolled the feature out to a limited amount of ships, and then they learnt a lot. They want to solve some issues with contrast and size of text and things, with the sort of text and naming. Ships with serial numbers all have the tech ready to go for naming, so they can just turn it on, but they want to tweak ship naming a little bit first. Are food trucks a potential ship or vehicle that we might see in the game? It's on the list of the internal ideas for potential ships and vehicles, though the list of ideas is pretty long. It's relatively high up in that list, though. Could we see artillery ground vehicles? It's an idea that apparently comes up a lot. They might look at something in the future. They do have some plans for like forward observers and potentially like laser designation type things, scouting, reconnoitering, all that sort of jazz, scanning, that might allow them to do something clever with artillery vehicles so that they can actually fire artillery at targets without sort of having to fire blindly. Why are some of the lights on ships so different in power on different ships? Why am I blinded by some and others I can't see anything with? So lots of ships, they've been built with different tech and by different teams. There was a bug in the past that made lights super bright or super dim. Now they have guidelines in place that will unify lighting power within sort of like a scale for all ships. And obviously all ships will get that eventually. Will it be a lot of work to get older ships up to current standards, gold standards, with the newest tech? Some ships are pretty easy to get up to sort of the latest tech standards and getting ready for like things like physical components and resource networks. Others, especially the older ships, require more work. Fortunately, most ships have space taken into account for additions and future tech. They try to avoid bits that cause ships to expand out their size further where possible. They work with teams when there are new features or components to help mitigate future issues. They are going to be doing a lot of work on getting all ships sort of up to date with cupboards and component bays for all the sort of different size components they need for physical components in the near future. Will ships with docking collars on top be reworked, or will there be any way to use those top docking collars? So they want most ships to have docking collars on the side if possible. For ships where this is impossible, they'll probably have the ability to turn off gravity in certain areas or rooms to allow for their use. Will landing gear be totally decoupled from wings and flight modes fully in the future? Yes, there are tech limitations currently that prevent it, but in the future they will be fully decoupled. They will also be improving the mesh and damage models too for ships and landing gear. There isn't a hard date for this, but they're doing work around it, so if they have time, they'll also get decoupled gear working as well. Will smaller ships be able to do different things that larger, higher-tiered ships of the same role can't? So some smaller ships are going to be stepping stones to larger ships or better ships in a career path or higher tech ships in a career path. Some smaller ships will also be more useful in certain environments or situations, like a prospector in a dense asteroid field might outpace the Mole and even the massive Orion. So although the Orion, its sort of mechanics at hoovering up and strip mining are a sort of different level above there, they are a bit different from the type of mining that the prospector does. They do want players to have a level of progression when moving between ships. There are certainly some ships that are going to be better for exploration. Going from a Constellation Aquila to a Carrot, for example, will enable you to have a lot more sort of operational distance and a load more extra features, bells and whistles that you wouldn't have had with the Constellation Aquila. It's different for different ships and roles though, but some missions and gameplay will prefer smaller ships. They do also want to soft gate players into learning mechanics in smaller ships where possible before jumping into using things like the mighty Orion. I'm interested to know if there are any smaller ships which will be considered higher tier than a larger ship in a given role or job sort of scope. Anyway, boom. That's it for your all vehicles Q&A and all the vehicle features and updates on ships today. What did you think of that? Are you excited for where some of those ships are? Are you looking forward to things like the Hull C maybe coming to game later this year if we're lucky? That's what it sounds like to me. What do you think? Are you looking forward to modularity and customization for ships in a much more deeper, meaningful way? Are you looking forward to drones? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. You're on a plane, it's about to crash. Maybe you're in a jungle and a vicious predator attacks. There's a nuclear war and you're caught short on the toilet. You're drowning in shark-infested waters. How did you get here? What do all these scenarios have in common? That's right, easily preventable with the use of nordvpn.com/BoredGamer. It's like the ultimate survival toolkit, but to aid in internet security and accessibility. Now I can watch my favourite Netflix and anime shows from a different country while I'm lost in the rainforest just before a tiger eats me. Thanks, nordvpn.com/BoredGamer. You can get discounts by using the links below. But please note that probably in the case of a plane crash or, you're drowning, NordVPN might not be the most effective solution. Every month we have a Star Citizen ship giveaway. This month we're giving away an RSI Scorpius heavy fighter. This 2-seater powerful heavy fighter allows you to pretend you're in Star Wars with your X-Wing. It comes with a lifetime insurance and access to Star Citizen, so even if you haven't got a Star Citizen account already, you can play the game. To be in for a chance of winning that, just comment on any of my videos made during August. A massive thank you to everyone that subscribed to the channel or just watches my content or comments and likes and shares those videos. It really genuinely does help. And if you want to go the extra mile to help support the channel, you can click on the join button under any of my videos or click on the links to Patreon. It all goes a huge way to help the channel grow and expand. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great time in Alpha 3.17.2 and I hope to see you in the verse.